Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. Holland's Classroom, where today we are going into lesson 1 of chapter 12. It's the last chapter in my math here in kindergarten, and we're going to go over these lessons here. These are 3D shapes. What do I mean by 3D shapes? Three-dimensional is what 3D stands for, three-dimensional. And so we're talking about shapes that are not like our, square, triangle, circle. Those are considered two-dimensional, which they have two dimensions to them. Uh, they can have length and width. We've talked about that before as well as when measurements, we can talk about length and width. So shapes that have length and width, those are two-dimensional shapes or flat shapes. So you think of a circle. This is like a coin. You see how when I flip it, it's just very flat. It's got two dimensions. I can measure how tall it is and how wide it is. But three-dimensional has three dimensions to it. It can be measured by length, width, and height. So thinking of this rubber ball, it's a sphere, which we're going to talk about today. It's a sphere, so you could see how tall it is, how wide it is, and how long it is. So you can measure it three different ways. Same thing with square. So if we're looking at this piece of paper, I turn it sideways. It's very flat. You can measure how tall it is, how the length and the width. But when you have a cube, you can measure it three ways. You can measure how long it is, how wide it is, but then you also have to measure how tall it is. So height, length, width. So three ways. You see, one, two, three. Also, it's called a solid shape, whereas just a regular square would be a flat shape. This is a solid shape. Um, you think of like a shoe box. Boxes have solid shapes. You could put things in them. They have what's called volume. You can put things inside because of their shape. So we'll talk about that today. We're talking about spheres and cubes. So they're the most popular, I would say, the most popular solid shapes, 3D shapes. So you'll hear me say solid and 3D, but know that they're the same. There's flat shapes and solid shapes, two-dimensional versus three-dimensional. Let's check out what we're talking about today. How do I identify and compare three-dimensional shapes? That's the questions that we're asking here. What are some characteristics of spheres and cubes? Well, let's take a look at our sphere. We have our ball here. I would say that this is round. So just like a circle is round, this is round, but it's round on all sides. I can roll it in my hands, whereas this coin, I can't I can't really roll it because it just flattens. I can maybe try to roll it this way, but I can't roll it around like a rubber ball. I can roll that around like a snowball. You guys have had snowballs before. Spheres, I can't really roll it around because it has a flat, face on it, so it can rest on my hand without falling off. But I noticed that it's made up of several squares. Like there's a square right here, square right here, square right here, another square. So there's squares on it. So it looks like you would think of a square when you see it, but it's more like a box, a cube, an ice cube, if you will. Ice cubes, not always perfect squares, but you get the point. So, finding objects that you have around your house. So, like I said, I have a rubber ball. Maybe you guys have basketballs, baseballs. If it's wintertime, snowballs you can make into spheres. Sphere. It's an interesting word to say. Sphere. It has a digraph ph in it, which says sphere. Sphere. That's actually a word, long e word that has a sneaky e at the end. Interesting. But anyway, so we have sphere and cube. Sphere and cube. So try to find something that you have that is a sphere or a cube. Um, but anyway, that's on our own. Oh, they have some objects here. Look, it says draw lines to match the solids to each real world example. All right, so let's take a look. Just need the lines. So sphere, it's round, it rolls probably, not like a dice. I would say this baseball, and this rubber ball down here are both examples of spheres, whereas this die, kind of like I was showing you, and this present are examples of cubes. So sphere, cube. Sphere's fun to say because it sounds like, oh, you. What do you fear? No, it's not fear. It's sphere, sphere. So hey, we got it right. Okay, so looking at our math work, it says math in my world. This is basically giving you a chance to find and draw examples of three-dimensional shapes, the spheres and the cubes. So we talked about rubber balls, we've talked about dice, um, ice cube, any kind of ball really, or even the globe. Our world, the earth, is in the shape of a sphere. It is round all the way around, despite what flat earthers say. But anyway, that's besides the point. The so it says draw a picture of those objects. So you could draw a picture of a baseball. You could draw a picture of a die. But go ahead and do that, and then flip to the next page. Now, this is going to be the fun part. This is kind of like matching. So we're really just looking at what's the differences between a sphere, which they have written here, and then they have the cube. So which of those objects is a sphere? Which of those objects is a cube? Well, you see that this is round all the way, as like this sphere is, and with the cube, it's got its box-like shape. I would say a sphere or a cube looks like it has a box-like shape. You can see tissue boxes that are shaped like cubes. Um, those kinds of things. So, looking down here, number 3, what is this called again? This one is not a cube, it's a sphere. Say sphere. Good. Okay, so which of these are spheres? Is this a sphere? Nope. I can test it I can test it too. If I had a tissue or what is a graham cracker box, if you try to roll it on the floor, like if you see this ball, let me show you. Got a ball on my board and I let go of it, it rolls off. If I put a box on here, it won't roll off. It might slide a little bit, but it won't roll. So, not this. This is, it looks like a party blower, but that wouldn't roll like this ball either. But a tomato might. If you accidentally bump into it, it might start rolling. So we're circling that. And then number 4 is a cube. Yeah, it's a cube. So which of these are cubes? Is this a cube? No, we just said that's a sphere. What about this box? Box-like shape. Remember we talked about that? So there's that. And then this would roll, but not if it was standing up like this. A sphere, it rolls everywhere, but like this battery is the same shape as that can. So if I put it on this side, it rolls, but if I stand it up, it just stands up. It doesn't roll or anything. So that also is not a cube. Um, so yeah, there's that. But anyway, there on this next page, this is what your work is to find more of those shapes. And there are several solid, actually all of these are solid shapes. They're not trying to trick you with flat shapes. They want to make sure you're picking the right solid shape. And spoiler alert, some of these shapes that are on here are going to be ones that we're talking about in the next lesson. So I'm not going to spoil it. Just make sure you're getting the work done. Have your parents read the rest of these directions to you, and then make sure you get your homework done. It's all pretty self-explanatory. Finding these ones might be a little tricky for you on the homework. This says sphere, and this says cube. So even though it doesn't say, oh, which one, you find the ones that match, you need to circle which objects are spheres for number 7. And for number 8, you need to circle the objects that are cubes. All right. So make sure you check those, and then I'll catch you on lesson 2 tomorrow. See you then. Bye, everybody.